Hi, this is Rahiman Sheikh. Welcome to Fortnightly Railway Transportation Systems Podcast. I am the host and railway systems specialist working in this industry for 24 years and counting. This podcast is primarily focused on railway experts who have vast amount of experience and contributed greatly to this amazing industry. This is not a technical seminar but focuses on feel good stories, individual journeys, their success and failures, motivating younger generation to kickstart their career in railways and creating a sense of pride for the railway people who devoted their lives on the most environment friendly public transportation. Our guest for this fortnight is Warwick Talbot, Deputy Executive Director, Sydney Trains. Warwick started his professional career in 1970 as an electrical mechanic apprentice on Sydney Railway, at that time known as PTC. Warwick has over 50 plus years of experience working in the rail industry throughout Australia and overseas such as UK, Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Taiwan. Warwick is heavily involved in policy, planning, estimating, operations, maintenance, including portfolio, program, and project management. Hi, Warwick. Welcome to Railway Transportation Systems Podcast.
Hi, Ryan.
Warwick, my first question is, can you share with us your 50 plus years of railway ride experiences, please?
As Raham said, I started my career as an apprentice electrical mechanic in the then Public Transport Commission of New South Wales. At that time in my life, as a young lad, a teenager, was a toss-up between the railways and what was called the then Telstra equivalent. The railways won, as my grandfather was a railway man and he was my idol at the time. My career then progressed to engineering as a diploma engineer, working in the technical section of the Railways Public Transport Commission. I was fortunate to travel as part of that time as a diploma engineer, was to travel to Japan as part of a technical team evaluating new rolling stock and traction technology. And as a young engineer, it opened the door to many opportunities and advances to my career. I was so fortunate to be picked to go. It was really good to be part of that team. And then I came back to Australia to undertake a lot of tests on our network to ensure that the electrical compatibility of the new technology was going to work successfully in our railway. That was great as well, and it was a good time in my life. But I saw that the pastures were greener on the other side, and I left the New South Wales Railways and pursued a position in the Sydney monorail, which is unfortunately now gone and been torn down. But I established some of the operations in the new Sydney monorail because it started before it commenced operations. So we set up some of the operations. And after a while, because of my career background, I was moved into the role of maintenance manager not long after. During this time, I went to university and I studied operations management and moved on to grass is always greener. I moved on to as a consultant working for various railways around Australia and overseas, of which 11 years I spent in Hong Kong working for the MTR Corporation on a variety of projects, some of them extremely interesting, and some were in Hong Kong and others were in other countries. At that time, MTR Corporation were exploring to move to outside of just Hong Kong and doing work. They had a very good successful railway and were looking at trying to put that success into other countries, and so therefore was invited to be part of some of those explorations. I returned to Australia in 2006 and continued working as a consultant a couple of years and ended up joining a company called UGL as the New South Wales and South Australian Operations Manager. Through surprising circumstances, and I won't go into the length of the story, I ended up being the Alliance General Manager for Package G on the Regional Rail Project, which was a significant project in Victoria at the time. But it was one of the most successful projects I'm proud to be part of. The first being that I was leading the team to win the Alliance package in the first place, and we were successful in winning it in the first instance. And the second instance was that we made a lot of money for UGL and it was a very successful program right through to the end. I returned to New South Wales due to personal reasons in 2013. It was just before the end of the regional rail project in Victoria. But unfortunately, I had some personal issues and I came home, and after a while, I joined Sydney Trains as their head of engineering. And I am now the Deputy Executive Director for Network Growth, a slightly different position after 9 years, but I now oversee the business integration of major projects into Sydney Trains network.
Wow, such a great 50 years of railway ride. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did, Ryan. I did indeed enjoy every minute. There's not too much I would change in that career because right from the very beginning as an apprentice electrical mechanic, right through to being a tradesman out in the country, New South Wales network, I learnt so much, and I had some very good people to teach me and mould me into what I am today.
You are. Everyone knows in Sydney Trains, predominantly in New South Wales, you are very famous, Warwick, as being a part of senior management team and a great leader. How do you motivate your team?
My management style is one of minimal interference. I prefer to leave the day-to-day management to my team. I provide them with direction, guidance, and support when they need it or when they ask for it. This, I believe, creates ownership by the team in the work they are managing, and by doing so, self-motivates them accordingly so that they feel in charge of their destiny and therefore more empowered to making better decisions. And they will make better decisions. I also meet with the team regularly. I encourage them as a team to work with each other, and they learn off their experiences there so that they can collaboratively, through the deep dive sessions on topics of interest or things that are of concern, we get a more collaborative and a more learning environment for the team. I believe this adds to a sense of collectiveness and cohesion where people feel a sense of belonging and support, and an important element for us as humans to know that we are supported.
Strictly no micromanagement. I like that style. Do you think you can achieve objectives in this fast-paced environment with this style of leadership?
What I encourage within my team is to plan, and to review the plan. I think one of the things for success, if you achieve and manage a plan and create the plan then becomes something that you can work with and around. It gives you that guidance. At the beginning of every year, I afford the time to review my successes for the past year. I look at all the things that went wrong or I could have done better or I've been successful in. And then what I do is I sit down and plan what I want to achieve in the coming year based on all the reflections of the past. I then discuss this plan I have for the team with the team, and I gain their feedback on the plan, and then I adjust the plan accordingly. And then even throughout the year, I'm monitoring the plan to see whether I am still successful with the things that I want to achieve for the year, and I adjust it where necessary. So you have to understand that life is not constant. There are always going to be changes, and we have to accept that every plan is never going to be perfect. But what I do towards the plan's success, I acknowledge that life changes, and therefore adapting is more important than achieving all that is set out in the initial plan. Because as long as you've got the vision and you work towards the vision and you have the plan to get to the vision, sometimes you might divert a little bit off the road, if I use that analogy, or off the railway line, but you come back on and you achieve your vision at the end.
That looks quite intense. Is there any tool you use?
I use a mind mapping tool for gathering my thoughts. For just the purposes of collating my plan, no, I just use Word to put the plan down. But I put it in a structured way so that I can see what my plan and thoughts are. But I might use mind mapping to create the plan in the first place, because with mind maps, you can just throw ideas down in the map, and then you can export that to Word, and then you can play with it into a document that you can follow and track through.
Yeah,
I have
smart.
seen instances where mind mapping has been used as the tool for tracking. I've just found that a little bit difficult for me. Yeah, I use mind maps for dumping of things out of my head.
Yeah, that's a smart idea. Even I use a tool called Mural. It's a brilliant tool.
Yes, that's a good tool too.
So my next question, Warwick, is what is the most difficult part of being a leader?
I believe the most difficult part is managing people. I strive to get the most out of my people in my team, and I look at their strengths and their weaknesses, and I work with them to improve their potential for success. But the difficult part of being a leader is dealing with all of the variant human characteristics. We are fickle. Sometimes our moods impact us and we are affected by situations and other people. And our ability to achieve is constantly bombarded by our disposition at any point in time and the disposition of others, which affects our life and our capability to deliver successfully. As a leader, this can be frustrating. We know that our teams are capable when we start, otherwise we wouldn't have them in our team in the first place. But we have to read and gauge reactions and adapt to make sure we are influencing them in a positive way. Because if they are to succeed, we must influence them positively. People are the lifeblood of what we do, and we need people to achieve the best they can achieve. And don't be fooled that we can do it all by ourselves. We need people around us and we need people to support us.
Agree. I completely agree with your thoughts, Warwick. So my next question is also a bit different from what I've been asking you. In this 50 plus years of your railway experience, I know it would be tough to select few, but who do you think is the most influential person in your life and how did they impact you?
I have a difficulty in responding to this question as there's been many influential people in my life at various times. And having worked both in Australia and overseas, I think that has influenced me just by that involvement because I've seen the way in which people choose to do other things a different way and acknowledge the fact that there's not ever a right or wrong way. There's just a way of doing it. But if I look back in my life, my grandfather was my first influence, as I mentioned earlier, because he was my father in the early years. And when I went to work, until I went to work, I should say, he was a very astute man, intelligent and full of enthusiasm, and a great person to know and have as an idol. My uncle, who was a lot like my grandfather and who we lived nearby, he was another great influencer in my life because he worked on diesel trains as an electrical mechanic, note the start for me, and became a works manager after many years before and until he retired. A very successful manager, well liked, well respected in his career. And between the two, my grandfather and my uncle, I would say they molded me into the character I ended up becoming. Then there's all the other influences in your life that you get over the years by interacting with people, listening to people, working with different people, and experiencing their different experiences. Some of them have been my managers, some have been my peers, some have been just people I've worked with, some have been executives. All of them have taught me to value what you do and never stop learning.
Agree. Hearing to your story looks like it's a family of railway experts.
Yes, I think it is. The railway family is unique in some ways. It is very unique because of the many different aspects that you can come across within the railway career. It does cut across quite a lot of fields of work, and you see lots of different things in the railway because it's just about covers everything except for planes.
And yeah, agree. Warwick, life is about good times and bad times. So, being a leader, there might be many times where you were forced to deliver a bad news to your team. How did you handle it?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say that delivering any type of news is an integral part of being a leader. You have to do that, whether it's good or bad. You have to do that to your team on a regular basis. One, you've got to keep them informed. You've got to be part of that. But when the news is not so nice, I take the position that it's better to give it sooner rather than later and give it with empathy, particularly if it's affecting a specific individual or a group of individuals. There's no nice way to impart bad news. You have to be straight, I think you have to be open, and you have to be direct and not pussyfoot around, because the more you do that, the more the receivers don't of the bad news see you as hiding things, of not being transparent, and then they will make their own story up in their own heads, and this becomes a negative for them and for you. So you're far better to be, as I said, straight, open and direct.
That's a good thought. I think this would help a lot of people because personally, I always think that delivering a bad news is really hard. But yeah, I think it's a good lesson to take it from this. Thanks for sharing that, Warwick. And what do you do in your spare time?
In my leisure time, I love to move around on two wheels. I've got a bicycle, which I ride often, and I also have a motorbike.
Super.
And between the two, I like doing that as far as a leisure activity. But I also enjoy spending a lot of time with family and friends. It's just lovely to be able to sit and chat with them and hear their life stories, and then to be helpful to your own family as well, and sharing your experiences with them. I also recently bought a caravan. The idea is travelling around various parts of Australia that I've not visited before, or I may have visited, but it was a long time ago. I'm hoping to do more of that in the future. So they're the main
Marvelous.
things that I do in my spare time if I'm not working, which is not very often.
Which motorbike you have?
I have a Kawasaki 900 Vulcan, which is a touring bike, very comfortable to ride, low center of gravity, doesn't go too fast, which suits me nice.
Yeah, even I have a motorbike. I love motorbikes as well. Mine is a Royal Enfield 500cc. Very
uh,
nice, classic. I
Very
love
good.
it. So moving forward, I would ask a railway question. If you could change one thing about our industry, that is railway industry, what would it be?
I've been very fortunate in my career to get involved in a lot of new technology in the front end of different projects that I've managed. But the most important, I think, that a railway needs is what is called cab signalling, which is moving from what we currently have today, which is line side signals, which give the movement authority to the driver, to providing it within the cab so it's not intermittent as a line side signal is. It's with the driver all the time. It's telling him how far he is to the end of his movement authority, and it gives him a lot more information that's available to him directly. There's also so much significant benefit to having this technology on, and it comes in two different forms at the moment. One is called ETC, or European Train Control System, and the other one is computer-based train control. And various manufacturers make both types of technology, but it's fundamentally the same. It is putting the information within directly to the driver that's live. Now, the benefits to the driver is that they're less stressed, because if they fail, they may do, because we're all humans, to observe something and see something. We can automatically control the train. The system automatically controls the train and takes the stress off the driver, so he doesn't have to worry that he missed a particular signal he went past, or we all get distracted at times. I think it's one that every railway should have, this technology, and we should move to it. It also allows us to move towards a digital railway.
Yes, completely agree. Even I have been closely working with these two technologies, and comparing to conventional signaling, I could see the benefits of it. Yeah, it's a the headway is amazing. Warwick, I know you have been heavily involved in policy and planning in your career. So, what do you think is your top strategy for success? How do you make sure that you get success right?
I'll talk about it as a successful leader. I think you must value the people who you work with and around you. Your success is measured by your ability to perform, the people around you perform at their best. And that gives you the desired outcomes that you're striving to achieve as a leader. And we sometimes undervalue people, and we work with and should remember that they are the ones who can make you look good. You have to look after them, though. You have to value them, that they are important. They don't have to report to you. They don't have to be people that report to you. They don't have to be people in other areas. They can be subordinates, they can be managers, they can be executive, but treat them with respect. If you do that and you're in a collaborative frame of mind and a way of working, you will achieve success as a leader.
I concur. Warwick, my next question is in regards to Sydney Trains. How Sydney Trains is promoting opportunities to newcomers, this younger generation?
So we have a variety of different programs that encourage people to come and join Sydney Trains and have a railway career. I'll talk about the things that I'm more aware of, which is the graduate program, where we encourage undergraduates and graduates to consider Sydney Trains. And we do this in two ways. When I was head of engineering, for instance, and it is still done today, I would take my heads of discipline to the universities, to the local universities, and have an introductory session with the undergraduates in their final year. And we would talk about a variety and diversity of engineering that we undertake in Sydney Train. So they get an appreciation of what's in store for them if they come and join Sydney Trains. And we encourage them to apply for graduate positions, which we have a yearly intake for the graduate positions. So we're dealing there with both the undergraduates and the graduates, but also too, I've been involved with mentorship within universities, and in my particular case, I was involved with women in engineering because there's not as many women engineers in there. And we were trying to encourage women in engineering. A lot of people have gone back to schools, etc., and conducted sessions back there, but I chose myself to get to this mentorship role where the whole goal was to guide and encourage women who had started their undergraduate in engineering and try and keep them to continue it. Because in the first and second years, there was huge levels of dropout. And what we wanted to find out and encourage, and through mentorship of the young women, was to encourage them to stay longer because they will get the benefit that they want. But not only to do that, but we also guided them and supported them in their studies and their career choices. I found it the most rewarding experience having done this, because as a more senior person coming down and remembering my early years, well, even though I started as an apprenticeship, but my early years, I had a lot of, it just brought me back to earth. You know what I mean? Yes, that's right. Once upon a time, I didn't know any much either. And it was good. I never had a mentor as such. I had a lot of people who influenced my outcomes, but never had a mentor. So I felt I was getting a lot out of it as well as the mentee. So it was a good experience, and I would encourage anybody else to undertake that.
Sensational.
We
Really.
also have apprenticeship intakes every year, and those apprenticeships get a wide variety of different applications, so electrical, mechanical, civil, and we try and encourage the apprenticeships and guide them through their time as apprentices, and try to encourage them to stay within the railway fraternity going forward. The same with the graduates. We do the same to try and encourage them to stay in the railway fraternity. They may choose after a while to leave Sydney Trains, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it's quite good that people want to go out and explore the world and grow. And I think that we should encourage that, because they will come back. And I've had many people who have returned back to Sydney Trains having experienced something else outside. I'm an example of that.
Yeah, I agree. Irrespective of whether they would stay with Sydney Trains or not, if they are with the railway industry, we achieved what we're trying to do, because there's a huge shortage in this industry currently we're going through. So apart from that, what Sydney Trains is doing in innovation field?
So we've been encouraging innovation within Sydney Trains as much as possible. And the way we've been doing that is understanding what innovation is. And so that people understand is, when you have an idea, what do you do with that idea? How do you present it? If your manager may not be understanding of what you're presenting, you need to have a way in which you can do that. So we created forums in Sydney Trains where people could come up with ideas and present those ideas, and in an early form. And we gave them the way in which to structure these so that it could be understood about what they want to do. We help them with trying to work out in a high level what it might achieve, its outcomes and its benefits, so that we can put it in. And then we used to have shark tanks where people would, work through their ideas, present their ideas, and we would encourage them to hit the good ones. Not all the ideas are great or not fitting with where you want to be or go, but we did encourage a few of them. brilliant ideas were done by encouraging the business to just have a go. We've now put that online, so it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to the Shark Tank because not everybody likes to go that way. So we have an online portal where people can put their ideas and then they're contacted by someone to, understand it a bit more and put more meat around the idea and then see if it's to be. So someone else could take that forward, not necessarily the person who does not want to be recognised as such. So that's one of the ways we do innovation. There has been, over the last few years that I've been in Sydney Trains, where we've had innovation forums where we've, outside of the work environment, we have had a more relaxed environment where people listen to great innovators over the years. We've got some very good speakers to come along and they talk about what they've done to innovate in their career or their profession. And so that has been very rewarding and encouraged a lot of other people to deliver ideas and not keep them to themselves. So it's been a good exercise, I think.
Yeah, it's a very clever idea. And how do you prioritize? So, is it a fixed number of ideas you take it over?
No, it's generally what we will do is explore every idea, but it has to be going up to the executive for the executive to understand whether or not they want to take that forward in line with their strategic direction. Some of the ideas have got nothing to do with strategy, though. I can remember one idea quite clearly where we have graffiti on our corridor quite a lot, and he explained that with artworks, people will not deface artworks, but they'll do their graffiti everywhere else, but not on the artwork. And his suggestion was putting artworks along the corridor, and it's surprising how much that deters graffiti, which costs this railway quite a deal of money to maintain, and because it's a very unsightly thing.
I should say it's a very vivid idea. Amazing.
Very good. Yes, very good.
So, Warwick, my last question is, what's that one piece of advice you want to share with our listeners?
Never stop learning. You may do your degree, you might do your master's, you might do your doctorate, but there are other less academic things that you can do just to improve your capability, your experience, and be a better person for it. Those sorts of things are in, reading books, reading articles, magazines, listening to other people. Find a mentor or a colleague who can help you grow. These things will help you to grow and be a better person and help and feed your career aspiration.
Thank you, Warwick. It's impossible to summarize 50 plus years of your experience in 30 minutes, but I would really appreciate and thank you for spending your time or agreeing to come over this platform and share your thoughts on this podcast. Thank you, Warwick.
It has been my pleasure, Raman.
I believe everyone listening to this podcast has got something to take away from today's discussion. If you like this podcast, please listen, follow, and share this podcast within your network. If you believe we should be sharing your story or someone within your network, there is a railway leader who should be here sharing his or her contribution to this industry. Contact me on railwaytransportationsystems@gmail.com. Thank you for your time today. See you next fortnight. Until then, stay safe and take care of yourself.